Ben and Esteban. I'm excited to have this conversation with both of you. It's personal for me. I think these are conversations that we don't usually have. Um, and I think that I hope that, we can't cover everything in 30 minutes, but I hope that people will take this conversation off this platform and, continue to have it amongst themselves. This is an audience that we, talk to with the work that we do. And I hope that this conversation could help engage some of them, to participate. And so before we start, I want to give a shout out to Edwin because he did a really cool Father's Day video on paid leave, and that's on our Instagram. So you should definitely check it out. For those of you watching, it should be there. And then I wanted to start off this conversation by asking both of you like how your Father's Day was. Do you want to go first, Ben?
Well, it was number one. Thank you for the invite, and I agree with you. We were having some technical difficulties, so hopefully this will, like you said, one of the first ones I ever done to talk among friends and colleagues about Father's Day and what does it mean to us. So, in a short, my Father's Day was very great. I enjoyed the time with my 3 kids, with my 2 grandkids, my brothers, and so just having fun and really feeling the love and believe it or not, thinking about this date because I never done this before. Like I said, I've been talking about how a father should be, but this is the first time that I'm doing publicly, and I do it with my friends.
Cool. What about you, Ben? I mean, sorry, about you, Esteban?
Yeah, likewise, I'm looking forward to the conversation. So thanks, Steve, for putting this together. My Father's Day was it was relaxed. I got to end the day with swimming with my son. So we were swimming a little bit. He's I think this is my second Father's Day with him, and he's become quite the swimmer. And he loves to practice, and that's what he's about. He's zeroed in on what he's gonna do, and it's fun to see him like grow into this person, right, that he's gonna become. So I got to spend a lot of time with him, and wore the little shirt that they got me last year for Father's Day, which he knows the letters on the shirt now, so it says Dada.
That's cool. Was he scared the first time when like you were doing the swimming?
Oh yeah, he's terrified of the water at first. He would just like hang out at the side of the pool, or he would like cling on to you like he was a koala bear or something like that. But now he's just floating on his back in the water. He's lunging himself into the water, trying to float forward. Not swimming yet with his hands, but he's kicking his feet a little bit. So it's fun to see his progression as it relates to that.
That's very cool. So for me, I got to spend it with my partner's father, and so we did a co-Father's Day, and it was just my daughter's cousins were there, so it was mostly watching them play around, which is always fun. It's like new kind of entertainment now, watching your kids play and then seeing them be silly. So I thought it was nice compared to last year's, right? Because we were right in the pandemic. I think last year I didn't go out at all because we were scared of like what was going on, and here we are, some sense of normal finally. But I wanted to originally I was happy that the team was so supportive of us having this conversation, because I had mentioned to the team that I had got to my first like baby shower for fathers, and I had never gone growing up. I always went to like baby showers, and I go with my mom, but I had never seen it done for the father. That was new to me, and I got to participate, and it was over Zoom. So it was just interesting to hear like different guys just talk about fatherhood and like be so open about it, and like no judgment. Everybody's going through different levels of learning things, and I appreciate it. So I was like, you know what, let's have this conversation about Father's Day here with the team and hear everybody out. And Ben, I'm glad that you're joining us because you have so much knowledge. You've seen a lot more, your own experience, and then watching millennial dads. So I want to hear about you too. Like how do you see the change and how it affects? Because the last time we all connected, we talked about how this is the future. It's a future generation, right? We're raising the next voters, and we're living through difficult times. And now I feel like, at least for me, I find the work to be more meaningful, because now it's not just about making the world a better place, like making the world for these little kids, right? That don't know anything. So I guess we could start with that. Like, what are your thoughts about, maybe start with Ben. What are your thoughts about what you've seen within the time, this transition, right? Because millennial dads, that's the thing right now. They're saying that they're different from previous generations. I'm kind of curious to hear you talk about that.
Well, again, I mean, since you brought up the father's baby shower type of deal that you went to, you had made me think about, my own experience. I mean, I'm one of those guys who, number one, I'm an immigrant, and the love for father to the son is shown in back in my day in a different, aside from being from immigrant, I'm already dated myself. I'm a little old here. And seeing what I'm seeing, what you trigger me in my brain, Steve and Esteban, when we talk, is that I have never realized that being a father is one of the most important jobs that we can ever do. We've shaped that generation. I was not fortunate enough to have my dad all the time with us, because life, and so I became the son of a single mom at the age of 12. But I was very fortunate to have a mom that was ready to fight and become a mom and a dad. But I also was very fortunate to have a great couple with mi abuelo y mi abuela, especially mi abuelo, that give me a lot of love. So I grew up with that. I didn't pay attention to the other part, but I grew up with that. And so then life got me into, like, I'm the father now of 3 millennial parents, my daughters and my son. But I also have a lot of nephews that I see them being different. I don't know if I changed a whole lot myself, and the love and care that a father should be given to a kid. Probably took me, to be honest with you, about 5 to 10 years before I realized that this family was growing up and I needed to be more part of the family. And again, I mean, the joy that I heard Esteban and you talk about the kids, I did not start enjoying that until I was about 6. They were about 6 years old, 7 and 8 or something like that. There are 3 of them, because I didn't know how to play with my kids. So, but things change, and I now see that how much they love them, the kids, and I like going back to the millennial parents, and I see in you guys, like my nephews that are the parents of the new generation. They're doing a lot of different things with the kids that I didn't enjoy it at that age. I enjoy it a little later in life. And I think having this conversation is like, brings you back memories and no regrets, because I still have the ability to be the father to my grandkids that I was not the father that I was to my kids. So I still try to continue doing that part.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. I think that sometimes when I try to like reflect back at the time, like of, you raising your kids or my dad raising kids, like things were just so different. Like there's just so much more information now that we have. Like I have a friend that had told me that he wanted to buy all these books, but he couldn't find them in the libraries, like books that are targeted for like fatherhood. And the only place he was able to find the content was going to the LGBT section, because there they had, gay men had written books for themselves about fatherhood, and that's the only place he could find a book. It's almost as like fatherhood and as in society as a whole, we're just behind and we're just all catching up now. And I find that interesting. That's why this conversation is important, right? Because there's just knowledge sharing that we're just talking about this issue. Which probably I haven't seen it happen too much, right?
Neither have I.
Yeah. What about you, Esteban? I know last time we were talking about playing with our kids, and like you were telling me a story about how you hug and you kiss your kid and everything. And I was listening to this song from this artist that talks about him holding his kid's hand, but it got to a point where he was like, "Let go of my hand," and it like hurt him. He was like, "What's going on here?" And they're eventually going to grow up and, be adults. And it's like, how do you, like, the importance of cherishing these moments, right? Which is also why we're having this conversation, because we're going to be talking about the issue of paid leave and paternity leave, but the importance of being with your kids. I want to talk to you about, like, the time, right? Especially now during the pandemic, I'm sure you're spending extra time with your kid, but I guess the benefits of it, right? One benefit of the pandemic, right? Being able to spend more time with your kids.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm enjoying as much as I can from it. And, it's actually a tip I got from Ben is like, there will only be one first, right? And once you miss that first, you're never going to get it again, right? So I really took that to heart, and I'm trying to not miss those firsts that happen.
Yeah.
There's a lot of firsts that have been happening. Some of them great, some of them, a little bit frustrating, but nonetheless, like, and I also realize like these moments right now with Nico is like, these moments are for me. Like, they're not for him. He's not gonna remember these moments, right? I'm gonna take these with me forever. And you made me reflect back on like my mother and like what she went through as a single parent. Also, just like kind of like Ben, I didn't have a father figure, and I kind of joke with my mom, like, joke, but not so much joking. Like on Father's Day, I recognize my mom, and on Mother's Day, I recognize my mom because she's the one that was both mother and father to me. I didn't really have an example of like how to be a father, right? But I had a great example in how to be a parent. And like, that's something that was instilled in me. And like, funny you mentioned that story, because the same thing with my mom. I got to a certain age with the affection, right? And I told her, Mom, like, I'm going to school now. Like, I'll give you all the hugs and kisses you want when I get home. But right now, like, I'm very affectionate with my son. Like, I love to hold him, to kiss him. We hold hands. And like, I don't see absolutely anything wrong with that. And I think in different generations, maybe it was different, right? Maybe it wasn't accepted, but like, I cherish those moments. They're very tender moments. Miko takes them for granted, obviously, right? Most of the time. But like, for me, it's just like, it's how I feel closest to him, right?
Yeah.
When I'm close by.
Yeah, no, that's cool. You reminded me something of right now about how Ben had told you that those first times. I had read somewhere about that. There's only 18 summers. That's it. That blew my mind, because I was like, oh, that's not a lot. If we think about it in like 365 days, but if you think about, like, especially now that I'm in Michigan and we don't get a lot of sun, I'm like, hey, these 18 summers are very, very important. So yeah, I think that this allows us to enter this conversation that we want to have about, taking time off, right before your kid is born. And I first, Ben, to tell that story, because I'm not sure how I was back then, right? It was a different time. We're talking about paid leave now. It's like almost a fairly new concept, but I want to talk about your paternity leave and how that was, or if it even exists. I know your experience is going to be very different from Esteban's and myself, but we can start with you.
Well, I mean, I watched, before I go there, I just want to tell you that I was, one of the things that changed me and how that I became more closer to my kids was not at 18. I was told that I had 16 Christmas with my kids. That's all I had. Because after that, they can start going on their own. So I realized at 16, and I already blow up like at 5 years.
Yeah.
So anyway, but going back to the question and that paternity leave, that, to be honest with you, did not existed in my world. Again, I mean, not enough closeness to the kid was necessary. The mom was the one that was supposed to be at the house. There was this notion about taking time off and bond with the kid. And not only that, but be supportive to your spouse. So, and we in the Latino community, I subscribe that we are one of those people that believe that if you don't work, you don't eat. So then you don't get paid to stay home, but at the same time, you see this beautiful thing growing up, and I agree with Esteban. They never gonna remember. But it's weird because they do in a different way. They don't tell you but they know us differently. And I know that because my youngest daughter has a little bit more affinity to me because of the love that I was able to give her when she was younger. But
Yeah.
I didn't have the opportunity to take the time off, and nor the wisdom, to be honest with you, because I think sometimes you had to balance between money and what is the right thing to do. So at this point, I didn't even balance between money and the right thing to do. I just didn't do it.
Yeah,
So
thanks, Ben.
I think that moving forward, again, I mean, for the younger generation, I see more parents taking time off. So
Yeah,
I don't know how they really do it because we don't have to pay leave, but Esteban, you might want to, you know.
Yeah, I think, you know, in my experience, I think we can see like an evolution of like how this is happening, right? And I'll give an example of where when I was a parent and Nico was about to come into this world, I won't name organizations, right? But well, you know, I was fortunate to have at the time a supervisor that had set a precedent that you could use your sick leave for things like this, right? And I had a sick leave bank that was saved up. It wasn't necessarily paid leave, but it applied in this scenario, and there was a precedent that was set, and so I was able to take some time off to, you know, bond with my son. Right, those first moments are just so critical when they first come into the world, to be able to build a connection with that you know, little creature. And you know, I ended up moving to another. We ended up starting this organization. And you know, one of the first things that the co-founders of this space agreed upon is like, we're going to have paid leave separate from sick leave, right? And so what you saw is like where sick leave was like you know, created a we had that scenario that I mentioned initially, and now we have officially paid sick leave separate from or paid leave separate from sick leave, right? That's an evolution also in our consciousness as people in this movement, in these organizations, these progressive spaces, right? That we can do better, and we have to figure out how we're going to do better, right? And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be right off the bat. You know, you know, it might be nominal at first, but like there is a progression that we can do and get better. And like, I think about that and also compare where we are in this country with other countries, right? That are far more progressive when it comes to paid leave. I mean, we're talking about 6 months paternal, maternal leave, like, or a year to bond with your kids. And like society accepts that as like, that is what is right. That's what it should be, right?
Yeah.
And here we are in this country, in the United States, where we're struggling to make and recognize paid leave as a right. Right, we're so far behind when it comes to these things of other industrialized nations, and it's saddening. But it's frustrating, and there's work to be done when it comes to this issue.
Yeah. No, I'm glad, Steven, that you shared all those details, because I think that when I reflect on like what you were sharing, that there was someone within your previous organization that took that initiative to set something there. That's change. That's how change happens everywhere. Us making those conscious choices, like that's very similar to my experience. Like before I became a parent, these issues I wasn't aware of. I wasn't interested. I was not a parent. When I became a parent and I benefited of those changes, I remember my colleagues telling me, you have that because that HR person that we had at the time wrote this in, and you know, it made me think about like, yeah, that's amazing, right? This person brought this mindset, it got approved, it got established, and I benefited from it. I was able to spend time with my daughter at the beginning. One of my biggest fears when my daughter was born is like, I was concerned that I was not going to be able to be present with everything that, you know, happens in life. And when I was able to take that time off, that helped me to focus just on her. And that's huge. I see the value in it. I see what I was able to experience. I want other parents to experience that. I wish previous generations were able to get that. And unfortunately they didn't, but I feel like we need to have these conversations so that other people, you know, start supporting this issue with us, right? Why it's so important for all fathers to benefit of this, something as simple as like taking time off so you could be with your kids, and then you could go back and continue being part of the workforce.
Well, I think that now more than ever we are closer, because it looks to me that at the federal level finally are paying attention to it. It looks like President Biden and the campaign paid leave for all is pushing very hard. So it's not over yet, but we definitely know that, like you said, I mean, some improvements have been done, and some states already have it. So we need to make sure that everybody has it, and once we have it, that everybody benefit from it.
Yep, for
Absolutely.
sure. So now that we specifically talked about paternity leave, the issue of paid leave is really important as well. I think the pandemic has showed us how important that issue is, right? And I think that because it's sort of like balanced out where you had a lot of parents have to work from home, have to take care of their kids, that they had to make these requests of their employers, and they were granted because they're, you know, at a they're different, they're a different type of professional that is respected more. You know, they were granted that, and now for the families that we're talking about, the workforce that we're talking about, that hasn't been the case. But here's an opportunity for us to continue talking about paid leave, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it, Ben, on like, you know, how have you seen it develop? Like, why is this super important even once we're after the pandemic, right? It's something that needs to be in place. It still benefits children, right? But it also benefits just individuals themselves.
Well, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna ask Esteban to help me out here as well, because he and I, we've been working on this issue for a long period of time. And one of the things that I would say is that it's not fair to have to choose between having to go to work and being able to take care of your loved one. It's not that easy to make those decisions, and when you do it, you're not even do good to your family. You don't do good to society. You don't do good to the work. Because when you go to work and you leave your partner or you leave any of your kids ill, and knowing that they need your support, you're not able to do it because you don't have the ability to do that. That is having to choose to buy the food or to take care of the life of somebody and that you love. So I just think that he has moved tremendously. We have some states that, like I said earlier, that have passed paid leave. But we need to make sure that not only is in few states, but it's in the United States. And it looks like the pandemic showed that not only is necessary, but it can be done. So it's not like, not that we're gonna go break or we're gonna or not gonna be able to produce what we need to produce. Quite the contrary. I think the story that Esteban was saying, in terms of like, you know, how he was able to do it, and I appreciate the fact that once he and the co-leader of this organization became the leaders, it was not about if, this is how that we're gonna make sure that we happen for everybody. So it's pasito a pasito, but we had moved a little bit farther away. So Esteban, I don't know if you want to add anything there, but I just think that is the light is that we see the light at the end of the tunnel. I actually see it.
No, I think you summarized it really well, Ben. I mean, this is like a humane, people first centered approach of paid leave. Some things that just are just, it needs to be, you know, like, and I think of what you said earlier, Steve, of like, you know, what are we leaving behind for our kids to have to wrestle with and deal with? And like, Nico doesn't deserve to have to like fight for the ability to take off to be with his, you know, newborn daughter, son, whatever the case is, kid. And you know, that's an unfair fight, an unfair burden to leave behind. And you know, we're in a position, luckily, that we're in partnership with allies, with coalitions, Family Advisor work as well, in these spaces of paid leave for all, to make sure that we're doing the best that we can to change and to right some of these, you know, I wouldn't even say wrongs, but like it just wasn't part of the bigger picture of like what is the right thing to do, and we're in a position to add it to that bigger picture. So I'm happy to be in this work and make sure that we're making impact for so many folks. Absolutely.
No, that's well said, Esteban. I wanted to, we're almost at the end of our conversation, so I wanted to end with like going back specifically to fatherhood. From Ben, words of wisdom that you have for Esteban and myself, and you know, anybody watching.
Wow. Don't ever forget who's the adult in the house. And what I mean with that is you need to understand your kid. Your kid is not going to understand you. That's number one. I just, because I mean, there's a lot of different ages in life. One that you can put in the swimming pool, the other one that they don't want to get out of the swimming pool, and the other one that they're going to do whatever they want to do because they're growing up. So number one is just remember that is part. And I'm going to give you three things that I think that if you can do it, you will be the best father, I hope. Be present, be loving, and be supportive. And with technology nowadays, you think that by making a phone call is being present. No, be present. Don't, Esteban said it best, and just don't forget their birthdays and special moments, school. So again, I mean, be present, be loving, and be supportive. And I think that that will hopefully doesn't give you that many great hair that I have for not having that before. But I'm learning from all of you, and I'm very proud to say it. The millennials have taught me so much because I see in my nieces and my nephews and the young partners that my nieces have, how they share the responsibilities that once used to be just for one gender and not the other. So show your kids the love. That's all.
Thanks, Ben.
I-
Any
I-
final words from?
Steve, if I can add in, if you think it needs to, if you thought you smelled something, and it probably needs to be changed. Like I've been duped a couple. It's like, is that what I think it? No, yeah, it was. So
That's good. That's good. I like that.
I'm talking
I
about
want.
diapers, in case, folks.
I also wanted. I wanted to acknowledge something you said, Esteban, earlier about how you honor your mom on this day. I recognize that it's become a thing. I see it on social media, and I think it's awesome because like it just even proves the importance of fatherhood, right? To honor it, because that road's there, so that those guide systems, that advice, everything that Ben just shared, that you got all that, and I think it's awesome that mothers get to get honored on that day as well. So I think that's an awesome thing. And like I was saying, I'm grateful we were able to have this conversation, especially with both of you. We work together. We're always on meetings and talking about other stuff, but we finally got to talk something that's personal to all of us. And I think like I learned a lot from all of you. And I think that connecting it now back to our kids, we've been in this organizing environmental social justice space for a very long time, right? But now we have kids, and now it feels a little bit different. And I'm glad that we could all connect the dots and bring it back together to see why all this really matters. But thanks for having this conversation. I'm excited to put it up and hear any comments from folks.
And I want to say thank you to you, Esteban, and your leadership, because this would not have happened without that, and you, Steve, for having the curiosity to encourage us to do something that I never done before. So I'm glad that both of you were able to do this and allow me to be part of this first. Thanks,
Ben. Thanks, Esteban, and happy Father's Day to all the fathers and mothers still out there.
Thanks all. Thanks
y'all
as well. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Bye.
Bye.